We've been having a number of the winemakers on with us, and today, right now, we're joined by Rick Moshin. If you remember back in February when I came to the Wine Road Trail, it was a barrel tasting event where you could buy futures in wines that are coming up. I met Rick back then. We got some Pinot over at his place and had the pleasure of having him give us a backstage tour, so to speak, of the winery. And I want to welcome you to the show right now. Rick, thanks so much for stopping in, man.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. I'm loving the rosé.
Wow. It's a great, there's so much here to choose from.
It is amazing. And the wines, there's a wide variation of varietals and flavors and feelings. It's like you got rich rosés and delicate rosés, but they're beautiful. All of the rosés I tasted here today are just absolute beautiful wines.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you about, too. As a winemaker, you know, you've got your own sort of set of parameters and sort of your philosophy, if you will. But it's just like, excuse me, like a musician. You know, I'm sure, you know, that when Jimi Hendrix went out and listened to other bands, he could appreciate what other bands were doing. In fact, maybe take inspiration from some of them. You're not Jimi Hendrix, but
I like Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. But I mean, so you're out there trying everybody else's stuff. What is a winemaker? Take us inside of a winemaker's mind when you're out wine tasting other people's wines.
Well, to me, I get the feeling, you know, all the energy they put into it, and the expression from the varietal, what a lot of people call the terroir. It's a lot of the flavor that comes out from the grapes and the soil. And rosés are being more delicate. They express all these things in a really beautiful way. So I had a wonderful Sangiovese rosé that just blew my mind. I'm going, this is an amazing wine.
Yeah.
So layers of flavors, very delicate on the finish, but beautiful flavors. I was excited. I make a Pinot rosé. I'm a Pinot wine producer, and Pinot is my passion. So I've concentrated on perfecting my rosé of Pinot, but trying all these other varietals it's kind of putting an idea in my mind here. Maybe I want to start making a Grenache rosé.
Yeah.
You better watch out.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing too, is like learning not just what we're doing here in California, but my first introduction to rosé was with a Grenache rosé from Provence. Mm-hmm. And what I liked about it was the paleness of the color. It differentiated it from other what I thought of as a rosé, because it does. Some of them they do have that sort of deep pinkish look, but that pale look is just really fantastic. Now, this morning we tried. You were on part of the panel. You were one of the winemakers on the panel, and as I mentioned earlier, we had Jeff Rehnquist, we had Rick Moshin, and we also had Rick Davis from CalStar. Each of you guys made a different varietal, a different type of rosé coming from a totally different place. Your deal is Pinot Noir, so you make Pinot Noir rosés. You were telling us a story which I found really intriguing. I always love when I found out about winemakers that make wine with what they call native yeast, which just means that they're trusting what falls on those grape skins over the course of the year, as well as what's inside of their winery and the people that they're working with, and every little element that comes into play. Tell us a little bit I was fascinated by your story about the juice that comes out of the bins.
Right. So I love the lighter, more delicate. So I'm striving to make a really, it's actually just a light salmon color. Very delicate, but full of flavor. So I collect juice from the picking bins because it has the minimal amount of skin contact. Color comes from skins. So longer they have skin contact with the juice, the darker your rosé will be. And the amount of tannin that comes from the skins, the longer it has skin contact, the wine ends up with more tannins.
Right.
So I choose to use the juice on the picking bins. It's called free run juice. So when the pickers bring the bins in and you dump the bin onto the sorting table, there's always a cup or 2 cups of free run juice. And the juice, to me, gives you the ultimate flavor of the Pinot. It's all this freshness.
It's like nectar almost,
It is. It's so pretty. And then the other benefit is it has almost zero tannin.
Right.
So you have none of that astringency in the finish. You have just this beautiful, clean finish. And that's what I choose to do with my rosé, because that's what I really love about the rosé.
So you must not be able to make very much, or else you have a lot of bins.
Well, that's exactly right. So we collect about 5 gallons of juice per ton of grapes.
Wow.
So that's not very much juice.
No.
But at the winery, we process 300-400 tons of Russian River Pinot.
Mm-hmm.
So it adds up. I collect all that juice from all of that tonnage. So I end up with a rosé that is a representation of every ton of grapes that came across the sorting table. So we have a representation of over 30 vineyards in my rosé. It's a little piece of all these places.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
you and I talked last time about a friend of mine who's got a place over in Anderson Valley, and he showed me his vineyard, and this is getting a little bit deep, and we don't need to go too far into this, but there's different clones they're called in various, whatever varietal, whether it's Chardonnay, Pinot, name your varietal. And so a lot of Pinot files or Pinot winemakers will specifically grow certain clones in their vineyards, and then they'll make a single batches of each of those clones, and then they'll blend the clones together to get these sort of like this magic that they've got. You're using 30 different vineyards out there. Now, do you even care what clone they're using, or is it just like that grape tastes good, I want to make that into some wine?
Exactly. This is all quality fruit.
Okay.
So these are grapes that go into just wonderful red Pinot wines. So the free run juice that I collect is just beautiful. And so it's a multi-clone, multi-vineyard blend. And then by fermenting with the natural yeast, the native yeast gives multiple flavors of layers and layers of flavors to the wine. And that excites me.
That's what we really got. When we were tasting it this morning, we were just noticing that not only is there a balance that goes through the whole moment from when you first put it in your mouth all the way through that middle and all the way through to the end, there's a really nice arc that's just it's just a beautiful arc is the only way I can think of saying it. But as you say, there's layers that start exposing themselves as you're going through that moment. And you think that's really a product of all these different yeast that are coming along in the process.
Well, it is a combination of all of the different vineyard representations and soil representations and clonal representations, and then the native yeast component of the wine. When you ferment native yeast successfully,
right.
It's a little bit harder to do, but if you can get it to work, which I've perfected over the years, it's much, much, much more beneficial. I believe in the flavor of the wine. To me, it excites me.
Yeah.
So,
well, Rick, you're doing an amazing job. I mean, your product speaks for itself. I mean, I love having you on the show. It's great to be out at your winery. You're just such a fun guy and easy to just hang out with, and you're willing to share all this stuff.
Yes, let's go drink some rosé.
Let's go drink some rosé. But, speaking of your winery, I mean, we went to it back in February, and if anybody out there wants to recall, there was a heck of a lot of rain coming down for the months before that, including even snow melt coming down off the mountains and stuff. And as a result, the Russian River crested and even went over. And I know some people personally, like Graciana Winery, Vinny, or not Vinny, but you know who I'm talking about. Trini. His whole, not only was his vineyard underwater, his tasting room was underwater.
7 feet of water in his tasting room.
I mean, it was really a tragic story.
Yes.
So fortunately, you're a little higher on the bank, but you're still really close to the Russian River.
Yeah.
And we visited you, and one of the things I noticed was there's a bit of a hill going up past, the tasting room up behind your property. And it's very, very hard to distinguish as just a sort of a lay person driving up for the first time. But when you took us sort of behind the curtain with the Wizard of Oz thing back there, and we walked back and we walked up all these stairs. I love this concept. Share with us this whole idea of gravity flow and why you put so much into this.
So for me, making Pinots, I like delicacy. And I'll make this quick because We have a 4-level gravity flow winery. We can make wine without pumping, and every time you pump, you lose part of the flavor and aromatics through aeration. So I'm trying to minimize air input into the wine,
Okay.
and by doing gravity, by siphoning, it reduces that oxygen, and then the wine goes in barrel and sits in the barrel without racking. So it's a way of, for me, capturing more delicacy in the Pinot. Now, the Rosé, on the other hand, isn't a total gravity wine because it gets filtered, so it actually gets pumped through filtration before bottling. But we do that on mostly on the Pinots. We like to use the gravity when possible. So,
Well, I must say they're. I think I used the word for the first time when I was speaking with you this morning, glossy. And what I don't mean shiny, I mean glossy in the sense that there's a mouthfeel, there's a roundness that is actually, three-dimensional or something when it comes to tasting your Pinots. I bought a bunch of them and all the different vintages last time when I visited you in February, and I've been sitting there try to try them side by side, but I don't always have enough people over, so sometimes I just selfishly will enjoy one. But I must say that
it's a style. It's so stylistically, I have a process that I've perfected over the years. This is our 30th year at Moshin Vineyards. So, and that style is kind of like you said. To me, it has a silky tannins. You get very, balance in the wines. They're preserved by acidity. You get good fruit, good oak balance. So that's,
yeah.
I think what you're talking about here for the sexiness in that wine. So
it's glossy.
Yeah,
wow.
sexy,
that's
glossy.
That's
I like
the new word, man. 2020. Watch out. Wine Spectre is going to grab this one.
I can see that.
All right. Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Sure.
It's a blast as usual. We want to see, hopefully come visit you at your winery tomorrow. For all those that are going to be visiting the area, Russian River Valley is it's iconic, really, and to go and visit some of the wineries out there. But by all means, when you're here next time, go and hang out with Rick. Call up to make an appointment. He even does private tastings, right?
We do private tastings now by appointment, and it's Moshin is Moshin.
As we wind up, too, I mean, you've obviously had nicknames your whole life because your last name is so classic, Moshin. It is Moshin, but when you say it, it's like motion. So some of your wines are like perpetual motion, emotion,
locomotion,
local
locomotion,
like loco,
locomotion.
So we're gonna try. If anybody out there has some names for some of Rick's wines, definitely email us in at the show at MikeTheWineGuy.com, and we'll suggest them to Rick. And maybe if we have enough wine, we could probably come up with a name.
Yes, if we actually use a name that you get from the show. We'll compensate you a little wine.
There you go.
Free tasting. Let's talk.
We'll do something.
Let's talk.
This is an idea that's definitely in motion.
That's it.
Okay.
So,
well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for sticking around, and thank you, Rick. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. This is the best.
Check it out. It's Moshin Wines or Moshin Vineyards?
At MoshinVineyards.com.
MoshinVineyards.com. You can find it on the old internet.
Yes, with an S. Moshin Vineyards.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We are going to be right back in just moments. Going to take a quick little break here and let you guys take a breather. Go get your glass filled up with some Moshin Pinot Noir. Stick around. I'm Mike Rayford. You're listening to The Good Life Show. I'll be right back. Good Life Show. I'll be right back. Good Life Show. I'll be